Here at Helmuth Ford, we are a small-town dealership with no hassle and no pressure.
Are you alone for Thanksgiving? Don't want to cook? Don't want all the mess afterwards? Or do you just need a place to go this year? If you've answered yes to any of those questions, then you're cordially invited to join the 12th Annual Community Thanksgiving Day Dinner, Thursday, November 28th, starting at 11:30 a.m. at the Sigourney Senior Citizens Center. Everyone's invited. Bring yourself, your family, your friends. There's no cost. For deliveries, questions, or if you'd like to volunteer, call Mike at 319-330-9934 or Carol at 319-330-1612. We hope to see you there. Betsy's Boutique at 105 High Avenue West in Oskaloosa has uniquely different women's clothing from casual to dressy and everything in between. Betsy's biggest sale of the year is Small Business Saturday, November 30th, starting that day at 9 a.m. with their biggest discounts of the year, doorbusters, and giveaways to the first 100 customers to check out. Don't miss Small Business Saturday, November 30th at Betsy's Boutique, 105 High Avenue West, Oskaloosa. The Brooklyn Opera House in Brooklyn, Iowa presents live music on Wednesday, November 27th at 7 p.m. with Jake Simon and Blake Jack. Tickets are $25 in advance or $30 at the door. For more information, call 641-522-2424 or use the QR code on the screen. It's two of Iowa's finest country music acts, Jake Simon and Blake Jack. Wednesday, November 27th at the Brooklyn Opera House. Stop into Barnwired in Sigourney the week of Thanksgiving. Monday, November 25th, get $1 off any fall drink. Tuesday, the 26th, fill a drink carrier for just $20, 16-ounce size only. Wednesday, 50% off all regular pottery. Closed on Thanksgiving. Then on Black Friday, November 29th, buy one, get one on all Christmas ornaments. And Saturday, November 30th, purchase a Corksicle mug and get a free specialty coffee on us of equal size to the mug. Stop into Barnwired the week of Thanksgiving on the south side of the square in Sigourney. And a good Saturday morning. Welcome into the sports section. We are live from Barnwired in Sigourney, Iowa on a crisp November morning here in southeast Iowa. Again, hanging out at our new location, Barnwired, here in downtown Sigourney. We have got a loaded show for you today. Stick around. We've got a bunch of Sigourney Keota Hall of Famers for football coming up here shortly. And we've got a pretty full house here in Barnwired already early this morning. We've got our host, Andy McGuire, hanging out with us, and we're going to start our show with Pekin cross-country runner Chloe Glosser, along with athletic director from Pekin, Clint Weber. Andy, take it away.
Good morning, Coach Weber, and good morning, Chloe. You know, we're used to seeing Coach Weber on Saturday mornings talking about Pekin Panther football. We're going to talk Pekin Panther cross-country this morning. Coach, you've been known to recruit track athletes to the football team. Is that what we're doing with Chloe this morning?
She could probably contest to be on there, but she's got her sights set well, and she knows, she's still young in high school. She's got a bright future ahead.
A bright future, but a history past already, Chloe. I'm sure Coach Weber would love to see you at a defensive back spot or maybe even as a receiver, but I think your passion lies with running. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I wasn't a runner when I was a kid, not at all. But my family was runners, and I set my mind to it, and through middle school into high school, I found my passion, and I can't live without it, seriously. I took 2 weeks off after cross country. I was going crazy.
Yeah, we had a young man from English Valley that is on 1,600-day streak of running at least a mile a day or something like that. So you mentioned you're not a natural runner. You had to actually pick it up. What was it that sparked you to decide that you wanted to start running?
My mom ran in college, and my dad was a wrestler. But my brother ran, and he worked so hard, and he couldn't get All-State until his senior year, and then he finally got it. And I just saw how hard he worked, and I'm like, like, I want to do that. And with him being in cross country, I would go to all the meets and see all these people just run their butts off and give it all they have. And I just saw how, like, special it was. And, like, Gwen Wright, who got second and third and at state, and, like, she was just such a sweet person. Like, she's always been my idol. I dressed up for her for Halloween one year. Like, she just is the person that I've looked forward to, and I just wanted to be just like her, and now I am.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear young people talk about things like that, and I don't think you're by yourself in thinking that way. Steve, I've decided to dub this show the Barn Wired a little different, because the guys that are going to come on and talk about SK football and what Chloe's talking about here, I think just shows that to be a next-level athlete, you have to have something different than what maybe everybody else has. And I think what you're talking about, Chloe, is exactly what a lot of these guys are going to come up and talk about. Will hopefully share their experiences too. So it's exciting to hear you say that. It helps having good pedigree. Yeah, having that genetics where you have a collegiate athlete as a runner, your dad's a wrestler, that competition is going to lead you a long ways in life. So it's exciting to hear that. Coach Weber, can you talk about that a little bit? Just that competitive nature and what takes maybe a good or an average athlete to state qualifier and
like you said,
finisher.
She's got a family pedigree of being competitive, and her brother runs at UT Martin, right, down in Tennessee. So. And they're family friends with a lot of runners, so they've been set by great examples to work hard. But she does it first right in the school. I mean, I walked through the hallway. I think it was just I don't even know. It was maybe Monday or last week. But Chloe's reading a book during study hall, and nothing against society now, but a lot of people are scrolling social media, and here she is, reading. She's always doing homework. She's doing it right. I'm not going to talk about her GPA in here, but I bet it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's right up there. What is your GPA? Let's hear it.
4.0.
4.0, okay. So that's pretty cool. But it really does, guy sitting over there in a chair, he taught us right. It starts with classroom championships first, doing the right thing in the hallway. She's a prime example of someone who'd pick someone up who needs support in the school classroom first. Raised by good parents, and all that stuff ties into when you do something well in the school building, you get outside, you want to do it better. And she's obviously got a great coach, role model, Davis Idle, who's, he's coached a few in his 60 years at Pekin. But, like she said, I know Gwen Wright personally, and Gwen's a first-class example of success, knowing how to work. Now she's near a doctor in Baltimore or something, so she's had great role models, and she's got her priorities set right, taking care of stuff in the classroom first, work ethic, respect, loyalty, all that stuff, and then the rest is just up to her effort. So Chloe's been in my strength class. She's just one she doesn't waste 1 minute in the weight room. She knows how to work up till the bell, and then obviously at practice she's the first one going and the last one to leave. And some people think that's all just like eye candy, but it's really not, because every time I see her out there working, there's no 90% effort for Chloe Glosser. It's always 110%.
I have so much respect for that, Chloe, and it's awesome to hear Coach Weber talk about those things with you. So when he talks about you're in study hall reading, and maybe it's not schoolwork, right? I'm assuming it's something else. So what is it that you're reading? What are you taking in that you think is maybe going to give you an advantage?
Well, I do read a lot of romance and thriller books, but at that time I was reading a book about World War II. So it was actually giving me some knowledge. But I do that, puzzles, I love cooking, and I don't know. I just have to stay busy with something. I can't just sit on my phone and waste my day away.
Yeah. Mindless scrolling. You're giving me hope, I've seen it in other kids, and I'm seeing it in you, so this is feel good. I don't know if I'm warming up from the coffee or it's just the experience chatting with you. But anyway, let's talk about the running. Let's talk about cross country. Coach mentioned before we got on camera here that you're a 3-time state qualifier, 4-time state qualifier?
3.
4 event qualifier,
Yep.
sorry.
So in state track, I qualified in 4 events each year, same events. both one individual, and then a 3-time state qualifier in cross country. And I went from 32nd to 17th to now 3rd. So that definitely took, some effort, and I had to build up my confidence after missing All-State last year by 2 spots. That really kind of lit a fire under me, and I think that's what gave me the, courage to get 3rd this year.
Yeah, 4 events. So you're not a one-trick pony. This isn't just the the cross-country piece. You are a total runner. So tell us about the cross-country season specifically. I think we're here to talk about that 3rd place state finish. But tell me about the season. How did the season go? What goals did you set for yourself, and did you meet those goals?
Yeah, so going into the season, like this summer, I worked my butt off. There's so many things that went into it. I, cross-trained, didn't want to overtrain my body, which I could easily do because, I just want to try hard. I fueled my body right with the right nutrients. I honestly just grew myself as a person and as a Christian. I grew closer to God, and I think that was the major difference in me. But throughout the season, I just wanted to get sub-19, which I got, I think, my 3rd or 4th meet. We went up to Luther, and there was some good 4A competition and out-of-state competition. So I broke 19 for the first time there. And then what was my other goal? Oh, yeah, getting All-State, which I did that. So I definitely did not think I would get 3rd, but that was a little extra bonus. But, yeah, I just stayed super, super consistent. And I think that really helps my brother. Like, he was my whole summer training, and then Davis carried it out through the season. And I know they talk a lot about workouts and stuff, and it kept me consistent, and I kept building all the way through the year till November 2nd. And I didn't peak too early or anything like that. Like, it was great. I just kept staying consistent, staying at that little over 6-minute pace. And then at state, I was able to get 5:54 pace.
I want to brag on her too.
Go ahead, Coach.
She's talking about nutrition. I walked through the lunchroom. I'm a lunch duty guy, not by choice, but it's actually an honor because it's a change of gear. But daily discipline. She's every day. She brings her lunch, and it's like discipline. It's like the small things. I can't even meal prep. I'm so undisciplined. So props to her on taking every aspect into her game to make herself great.
Yeah. I can't imagine you as a lunch duty guy. Are you an aspiring lunch lady or a lunch server, Clint?
Not a lunch lady, lunch duty.
You look good with the ice cream scoop and the hairnet. Yeah, but no, I don't want to downplay that importance of lunch people and paraprofessionals or whatever, the aides are at the school. Shout out to all of those folks. We give love to bus drivers and we give love to teachers and coaches, but we don't give enough love to those folks that make the schools go. So I do want to take just a second to recognize them. I also want to take a second to ask you a question about one of the things that you said during, training, meal prep, nutrition, those things. But you mentioned faith, and that's something that we don't talk about, in my opinion, enough. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, we're on a podcast, and I'm going to share it. We don't say the national anthem. We don't sing the national anthem enough. We don't cite the Pledge of Allegiance enough, and we don't talk about faith enough. So, can you tell me, what that means to you? You said that's probably the thing that gave you the most growth. Was getting in touch with your faith.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a believer. I grew up being a Christian. Like, that's how my parents raised me. But I really just needed to take it into my own hands. Like, I got baptized, I think, when I was around 12, and that did grow my faith in it. I was a new person, but I really just, took it into the saying where, like, actions speak louder than words. Like, I say I'm a Christian, I say I believe, and I do these things, but you actually have to read the word. You have to believe. You have to, do your daily devotions, pray before every single meet. I did. Like, you just have to do it to actually, be the Christian you want to be. And every single meet, I prayed with the team when they were there. And then I prayed by myself about within 30 seconds of the gun going off. So I just, God was with me every step of the way, and I couldn't have done it without him. All glory to him.
Thanks for sharing that, Chloe. That's really powerful, and I appreciate you having the courage to talk about not only the season and what you do as an athlete and as a person, but also about your faith openly. That's something that a lot of folks aren't comfortable doing, so kudos to you for sharing that with all of us. So moving ahead, we've got track season coming up, and obviously you've got another year, junior, currently. So what are the goals for track season, and then what are goals for next year as it relates to cross country?
So for track season, I haven't ran the 3,000 a lot. I've only ran it 3 times my whole career, but I think I'm going to be running a lot more. I don't know if we'll have a 4x8 team. That's just something we'll have to figure out, but I'm excited to see what I can do in that, actually taking it seriously and figuring out how to run it. And then the 1,500, my freshman year, I got 4:49 at state. The school record is by Gwen Wright, and it is 4:43.8 something. And so she just keeps telling me, call me if you're feeling good. I'll fly in, watch you. She's like, I want you to break that record. And last year it just didn't happen. I didn't PR in anything, and that was a little rough. I was dealing with some minor injuries, whatnot. But this year, no excuses. I'm getting after it, and I'm excited to see what I can do. I'm hoping sub 440, but yeah.
Well, that's phenomenal. Coach, do you have anything to add as far as goal setting and what Chloe might need to do to meet these goals?
Just keep being herself. She's routine-oriented. She's structured. Her mindset's right. And, that's just such a rare quality for a young individual like that. So it just shows she's got her priorities right, and she can sprinkle all the little things in over the top that are going to make her even better, where a lot of people don't have those priorities and ability to, chase short-term, long-term goals consistently. That she's just on top of the running world and peaking right now. And I trust her so much. She's watching my kids tonight for 8 hours, so she's got a big day ahead of her on that front.
You're going to need more of that faith, Chloe.
Yeah, definitely. No, they're good.
Well, it's so exciting to hear these things, and Chloe, I can attest to you firsthand all of the things that you're talking to me about, and I know Coach Weber sitting over here just smiling, because though all of those qualities are what he looks for and what I look for, in the organizations that I'm involved in, for quality people. So, you stay on this track, and I can assure you, you're going to do whatever it is that you want to do in life. So kudos to you, and kudos to Coach Idle being at this for so long. It's kids like you that honestly get guys like him to come back. That's what it is. So I appreciate it. Do you have anything that you want to share before we wrap the segment up?
I don't think so. It's just, do the work when nobody's watching. That's what counts.
I've got one question for you, Chloe. Where did you grow up? Were you in Iowa all your life?
Yep, I've been in the same house in Packwood, Iowa.
All
Town
right.
of 200 people.
I'm detecting, is there a little bit of a southern drawl there? Or where'd your parents?
Everybody tells me that. My dad's from Bloomfield area, so
There you go, down south.
It's just the southeast Iowa.
Everybody tells me on certain
right.
words they can hear it. I've stayed here all my life. I don't know. It's just from my dad.
right.
He thinks it's cute, so.
Well, let's take a quick picture before you get out of here. Chloe, you've been an awesome guest. Got a good picture there. Thank you for being on. And I'm really glad that we took time. Of course, we were featuring cross-country runners here a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad that you took time this morning to get up early and come up to Sigourney and be part of our show. So
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, that is Chloe Glosser from Pekin Cross Country, and we look forward to having her back on the show sometime in the future. Let's take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. We'll rearrange and bring in some of the Sigourney Keota Hall of Fame football players and Coach Howard as well. We'll be back in just about a minute and a half. Let's hear from a new sponsor on the show. That's AE Realty. Find your Iowa dream home with AE Realty in Montezuma. With unparalleled industry knowledge, experience, and local expertise, AE Realty is the Montezuma real estate expert you've been looking for. Whether you're buying or selling, AE Realty can help you get the best deal. You can find AE Realty at 321 East Main Street in Montezuma. Call 641-623-2639 or online at www.aerealtyinc.com. Steve Shetler Media presents Santa Steve Stocking, a prize package valued at $1,000, $500 in cash, and $500 in gift cards from participating businesses. Please clearly print your name and phone number on your registration slips. One registration per person per business. Businesses have the option to require an in-store purchase in order to register. One winner will be randomly drawn from all the registrations from all the businesses on Friday, December 20th. In Oskaloosa, you can register at Julie's Homestyle Cafe, Shop Jen Miracle, Aesthetics by Lily, Betsy's Boutique, Stam Garden Center and Nursery, Rushed by Jude, Eagle's Nest Christian Bookstore, Mahaska Drug, and Oski Dental. In Lighton, register at Tassel Ridge Winery. In New Sharon, at Style Me Crazy. And in Sigourney, you can register at Casey's, Sinclair Napa, Barnwire, Brothers Market, Sigourney TV and Appliance, Colbert Feed, Copper Lantern, Sigourney Mercantile, and the Garden Gate. Register now and maybe win big just in time for Christmas with Santa Steve Stocking. All right, we are live from Barnwired in Sigourney, Iowa. We're doing the sports section. Again, Chloe Glosser was our first guest from Pekin Cross Country, and now we bring in a bunch of Hall of Famers. Everybody on the screen. I don't know, Andy McGuire, I don't know, are you a Hall of Famer?
Absolutely.
Anywhere?
I'm the Steve Shetler Hall of Fame first inductee.
Steve, exactly. First round draft pick, whatever you want to call it, on Steve Shetler Media. Andy McGuire, our host, and as promised, we've got the Sigourney Keota Hall of Fame. Andy, take it away.
Yes, I am not part of the Hall of Fame of high school football. I'll make that abundantly clear right out of the gate. But I am here with 4 guys that are part of the Hall of Fame. And most recently, last night, John was inducted into the Hall of Fame and had a lot of teammates there, and Coach Howard was there as well. So congratulations, John, on your induction last night. An honor well deserved. I would love to introduce these guys, but I don't think it's fitting for me to do that. So I'm going to ask Coach Howard to introduce the 3 gentlemen sitting next to me. So, Coach Howard, could you start that for us, please?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for Steve for doing this again. And everything I'm going to say probably is going to be coach speak, and it's going to sound like it, but I don't know I've ever had a group that it reflected better. And this is SK football, but also there's at least a couple kids sitting out here right now that could be in it. The 95 team had 2 or 3 kids. There's a lot of kids that could be in it. And a program the size of Sigourney Keota that has 3 kids in the Hall of Fame, that's a big deal. There's 5A schools that don't have anybody in it at all yet. So the neatest thing to these guys about these guys to me before I introduce them is that every one of them had to be basically forced to go into the Hall of Fame because none of them think they're any more special than anybody else. That's the reason they should be in it to me. They reflect the family, the program, the year-round commitment, no matter what the season was, to be part of Sigourney Keota football and to represent the program. So first of all, the old man up here, Chris Kaufman, and I think I'll get the classes right, was graduated in 91. He was on the 90 team. Every one of these guys represent a team with a different story. The 90 team is one of the saddest stories we have because they're the team that missed the playoffs by less than half a point back during the old playoff system. 50'd Montezuma at the end of the year, throttled Iowa Valley when they were ranked number 1. We left Marengo coming home, found out when we got here because there was no cell phones or anything yet that English Valley had gotten beat at the end of the game when they threw a pass that they shouldn't have, and Belle Plaine had caused our points to drop. So Chris, he may have played one JV game when he was a freshman when I kind of made him to have a point. Chris started every game at spin back. He was in the right place at the right time with the right talent and rushed for over 5,000 yards while he was in high school and went on to Central College and played there on a great program at Central, and now he's the AD at Grinnell. So Chris is from that era. And next over is John McLaughlin, who went in last night. And John played on the 2005 championship team, the 2004 runner-up team that we played a really well-recruited Waterloo Columbus that night. And anyway, John is extremely, all these guys is extremely humble about the whole thing. He didn't want to go in. I was most concerned about getting John to come back from Idaho. I didn't know if he'd get on the plane, but great tailback, rushed for almost 5,000 yards during his career, overcame big injuries. The senior campfire incident was a big deal, that he was never supposed to do anything again, and I think he missed 2 games. Then come back that third game, came back and rushed for 200 and some yards in the first half down at Van Buren. And then the hip pointer that happened in the playoffs in the semifinal game against North Fayette, and after his first touchdown, when he basically had to be carried off the field. Hip pointers are a very severe deal. That was on Monday, and we played Saturday, and drove himself back and forth to Pella to rehab, and ended up coming back, and the coach thought he was probably good enough to carry 37 times on Friday morning, and has one of the most famous plays in Sigourney Keota history. And the kid that threw the block is sitting out here, Ryan Schwanke, that threw the block on the reverse that went 47 yards. That one of my neatest possessions is the picture that a mom went across to the other side to take a picture of our crowd, and it happened to be that play right in the middle of the play. You can see John with the ball behind his back. You can see the guys pulling the other way, and you can see all 11 heads from Sheldon turned and looking back the other way, and that was when he was to pull the ball. He did, and you can see Ryan coming across who threw a block that took 3 guys out. So John also had a great wrestling career for us as well, and a very, very honored service in the military. And Derek Greiner, probably the biggest braggadocious pain about. No, we both John and Derek had to be pretty much talked into or forced into being in the Hall of Fame. Derek was a class of classic humbleness. Oh, John graduated in 2006, by the way. Derek graduated in 2002. He would have been on the 2001 team. And we had the 3 teams 3 years in a row that we were in the semis before that, and then finally got over the hump. That team's unfortunate story was, of course, their teammate passing away in an accident right before the season started. That team, they went undefeated through the season. Derek had one of the most famous hits in the history of the Unidome. Nowadays, he probably would have been put in jail right off the sideline. But he had a hit in the game against Dyke that completely changed the game. It basically stopped their offense. But that was just one of the many big plays that he had, and was also basketball and volleyball. He would have probably played volleyball if they would have let him. But basketball and track at Keota as well, and was highly recruited by Iowa, and said if I don't choke up on this, and I'm going to get rid of this microphone, but one of the classic lines after everybody left, and Kirk Ferentz had been after him, and Reese and the different coaches from Iowa to get him to walk on with pretty much the promise that you will be able to compete for a scholarship really soon. And he probably would have got it. And when everybody was gone, he said, Coach, it'll never be like playing for Sigourney Keota. I want a farm. And when the last story about Derek is the what people call soap nights. Well, they were just scrimmages here. That before the first game, after he had graduated, that next fall, whether he remembers this or not, he come up to me at the fence and says, "I'm so juiced up. This is awesome." He says, "It's just like game night." And I says, "Well, that's great." He thought I thought he was talking about coming back to the football. He says, "No, I just signed a loan today. I don't know how much it was for, 65 or 1,000 or 75,000 as basically an 18-year-old." That's the respect the people in Keota had for Derek and his family and everything else. So these three guys represent Sigourney Keota to me, and they helped make my career. And there's plenty of people before, and plenty of other guys too that are part of this. But that's the really special part of me, or to me, of having these three guys represent Sigourney Keota in the Hall of Fame and the towns of Sigourney and Keota. So I think that's enough from me for now.
That's not enough from you, Coach, but thank you for the help introducing these guys. I could not have done that justice. And I'll start working my way down this way because I do know Derek because I live in Keota, and I've been blessed to have kids attend school with Derek, and I've gotten to know Derek over the years. And, Coach, I can attest to Derek Greiner on the volleyball court because I saw his daughter, Anna, out there the other day, and I can assure you she has the Derek Greiner intensity, and she was trying to raise the bar on the court that day, and I thought, ooh, this is going to be fun to watch.
She hits somebody? Or she swears a lot?
Well, I couldn't hear exactly what she was saying. I wouldn't doubt that piece of it, but I can tell you that the intensity that she had on that and the gaze that she gave to some of her teammates when maybe things weren't going the way that they should have gone, she's a firecracker. Derek, can you attest to that?
I will attest to that for sure. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, she definitely, probably of the four, is the one that has my attributes when it comes to competition, yes.
Oh, I've seen it in others too. It might be in different locations, but I can attest to it that I see it in other people. But, you know, working back through the SK thing, and I don't want to get too far away from this Hall of Fame thing because it's rare that we get these guys in a room. Obviously, John was just inducted, but I want to take just a second and tell the audience here how special this is, having these four guys for the reasons that Coach Howard's talking about. I don't know Chris well, I don't know John well, but I know that these guys are humble, and to get these guys in front of a camera is a monumental feat. So, Will Hanchett, thank you for making this thing happen. Steve Shetler, thank you for making it happen. And I can tell you guys, one of the biggest honors that I've had this year is sitting down with Coach Weber, Coach Jensen, and Coach at the end, and talked about football. And that's all we talked about that day, aside from we got sidetracked on a few societal things, which I think is very important to talk about. But anyway, it's a big day to have these guys in a room to talk about things. So, Derek, let's start with Coach Howard. What can you tell us about your time with Coach Howard and what he brought out in you as a player and, more importantly, as a person?
No question, other than my dad, he's the most influential person that's ever been in my life. No way any one of us three are sitting here without him. Just the way that he believes in people and the way he invests himself into people, it's unmatched. I don't know that I necessarily enjoyed sports growing up as much as I did. I enjoyed being a part of something, and Coach Howard had an ability to bring a group of guys together, and there was no outside noise. All that mattered is what one another in the locker room and on the field thought with each other together. And I mean, he just gave you such a sense of pride, I guess, and he cared about the community, and he didn't just care about you during football season. He cared about you 12 months out of the year. And he just made you go above and beyond what you thought you were capable of doing. So, I mean, not only was he a genius football coach, X's and O's, he just had an ability to find people and bring out the best in them and make you play your best football. And like I say, I don't think there's any doubt, us three. I mean, this is not our thing. It's definitely not my thing, but when Coach Howard's involved in something, and I know it means a lot to him, and it means a lot to the community, and you don't say no to that. So, and I mean, he sat here and talked about us, but I mean, none of us are here without him. And as far as my own story goes, I mean, I don't think you can find a better fit. There's no way that I have the career I have or do the things I did on any other football team with any other coach. He talked about the whole Iowa recruitment thing. Yeah, I mean, every person, their competitive drive inside wants to think, you know, that they would want to try that. And, you know, they honestly, probably the first time I've ever said it, I think I probably would have made it work, but I wouldn't have lasted 5 days. I'll never forget, after the award ceremony, after we brought the trophy home and that, sitting in that locker room, I mean, I was sick to my stomach to have to leave it. And that was because of the culture that Coach Howard built. I mean, we loved each other. Will sitting out there, I mean, we loved to hang out. And I'll never forget, maybe the third day of pads, we had a horrible practice. And, you know, most coaches would have started making people run sprints or started chewing us out. He just blew the whistle and said, "We're done." And he says, we're all kind of looking at each other. And he goes, "Yep." He goes, "We're done." He knew we loved it so much that he made us think about it. And we stopped practice, and it hurt. Like, we wanted to keep practicing. We didn't have a bad practice after that. And it was foot on the gas from there on. So, I mean, can't say enough about what he's done, and I don't want to put words in these guys' mouths, but there's no way for sure that I'm not here with any other football coach than Coach Howard.
I don't know how you follow that, Derek, but, you know, I think that that's what the value of this interview is going to be, is an opportunity for you guys to talk about what that program means and what that coach means to you. Derek, I'll tell you this. One of the greatest honors as a father myself was last year. My wife and I and my oldest son, who graduated last year, played for SK, had a good season last year, was definitely not Hall of Fame, All-State or anything like that, but had a good season. And you congratulated him on a good season and told him that he did it the right way. I'll never, ever forget that day, Derek. And I just wanted to ask you, and I know what it means, but I want you to tell our audience, what does that mean to do it, quote unquote, the right way?
To do it for a bigger purpose than yourself. Society today, especially, everything's about me. And I think sometimes, I mean, I'm a parent now. I'm such a competitive person, and you've seen it in my daughter. I don't want to be that parent that's living through my kids, so I have to just step completely away. So I stepped completely away from it, and I kind of let them figure it out, but everything I did was for community. After I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, the News Review interviewed me on the phone. I don't know that guy could have wrote an article any better, because no questions, hands down, he's not lying. When they called me, I think I upset the Athletic Association, because I told them, I said, I'm just not interested in this. And then Coach Howard called me and said, think about this. This is, you know, and I got to thinking, all those people in the community that filled the Uni Dome and came and followed us and all the joy we brought to them, like, this is for them. It's not for me. So I had to kind of change how I was looking at it. Once I changed it to that, it was a no-brainer. But doing it the right way is, you know, and that's what Sigourney killed. I don't know that any three of us, I'm very privileged. Chris was a year below my brother, so I got to watch SK football for a long time. John was younger, and his class was like, I think I felt more joy when they won than when we won, because we did a lot of talking with them, and we wanted to make sure that, you know, they could keep the tradition going. And I mean, that's what this is. It just keeps getting passed down. It's a family. It truly is a family. So to me, when I say they do it the right way, your boy did it the SK way, with hustle. Never take a play off. Don't care if you're hurt. Don't care what. He did it with hustle. Not a lot of athleticism, you know, but a good athlete just did everything the right way. He hustled. He was humble. He wasn't braggadocious. You know, that don't get you nowhere. And that's rare today, and we could use a little more throwback, just good old-fashioned, you know, no rah-rah, don't look at me, you know, just do it the right way, you know, behind the scenes, don't need to bring attention to yourself, and just hard work, hustle, determination, and you know what, that goes a long ways.
Amen, brother. It absolutely does. Coach Howard, chime in on this.
Well, what I wanted, and this isn't the Derek Griner hour either, or the Bob Howard hour, but a really key thing to me in SK, and John was part of this because he was in the front row with the other 8th graders when Derek gave. And if I don't get, I will get choked up this because I do every time I think about it. And I've ruined the tapes now, so I can't go back and watch it. But it is on YouTube that Adam Sellers has produced. The reception that night when Derek spoke last, gave the most awesome talk, and the gym was absolutely packed from end to end, top to bottom. And he started out with the naysayers, and they are always there, and they'll always be there, that want to break up SK because, first of all, jealousy is usually the main part of that, or they don't have anything to do with it. And he talked about them, and without going over the whole speech, he turned around and pointed at the 8th graders. And Ryan was probably there somewhere. John was definitely there because you can see him on the film. Talked to Bermel last night. He was there. They remembered it. And he says, and if you guys want to do what we just did, you do what we did. And talked about friendship and ignoring noise and all that. And 4 years later, when the lights came back on and Derek was out in the gym again with Pat Flynn talking to these guys, and I was sitting next to John, and we both broke up pretty big then, and no shame in that at all. It was so cool. And that reflected SK football to me from one end to the other. And the thing I was most proud of as far as the winning at SK, some teams win 2 or 3 in a row. It's the same kids. 95 was a different group of kids than 2001, was a different group of kids than 2005, but they all influenced each other, and they started in 1990 with Chris's team that had the disappointment of not making it as hard as they worked. And that still, when I got on Facebook, when guys called me, when Adam did his deal during the COVID, and which was awesome, which was the best team, and I said 1990. Well, that pissed off a bunch of guys right away, and I knew it, but I wasn't going to pick one of those other 3. But 1990 was a fantastic team. You know, you had Danny Bauer and Chris Webb and Chris Kaufman and Charlie Henry was starting on that team, Chad Menster, Brett Bell, Mark Greiner, the first 2 guys from Keota that played with SK, who took a lot of garbage when they were freshmen. They weren't taking it when they were seniors. But anyway, Derek was in the middle of that. That speech was awesome. And if anybody still has copies of that, or you can go on YouTube. It's hard to hear on YouTube is the problem. It really gets garbled. But the guys that were there remember it, and the guys that were there remember the speech after the 2005 team. Basically what he says was, I told you so. That's pretty much what he said, and that it was so cool. So that's enough, but I wanted to get that in there too.
Well, thanks for the input, Coach. It's great to have that input, and I think talking to John next is going to dovetail in well with what Derek was talking about as far as his experience getting inducted and turning the guys down, because I'm sure that John would have turned down this opportunity to sit in front of this camera every chance he'd get. But I appreciate you taking the time, John, to come in. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked to Derek as far as, can you tell us the impact that Coach Howard had on you as an athlete and you as a human being?
Well, actually, I don't know. I think my freshman year and sophomore year, I didn't really care for you very much. But no.
I know you did when you were at coming out of 8th grade, because you wanted to be number 66, and you weren't going to play football if you weren't.
No, so. They as far as an impact, I think Derek said it pretty good there. Besides really just my family, my dad, my grandpas and grandparents and all that, like pretty influential. He made you think a lot. He made you make sure you were making the right decisions. I think that was kind of what the big thing was for me anyway, was just to make sure you're doing everything, the right way, doing it for the team, doing it for the school, doing it for the town, that was like the big thing. So as far as influence, I think that's kind of what it was, making sure you're doing something bigger than just yourself. And I mean, I think I took that pretty pretty much to heart. I mean, that's a lot of the reason why I think I joined the military, was looking for something that was more team and cohesive and all that, and just, working towards a common goal with a bunch of people. It's pretty cool. So I think that's the type of influence, he had on me as far as that goes. So other than that, Derek hit quite a bit of it, so I don't really know what else to say as far as that goes. It was influential on me anyway, as far as that goes. So I'll say the same stuff. I don't think I got lucky. I was on a good team, but I don't think I'd be anywhere without, having him as a head coach. I think I don't think it would have been the same team with any other coach.
So, John, I got to tell you, one of the greatest honors in my life was accompanying my dad on an honor flight. My dad served in the Marine Corps at the tail end of the Vietnam War. And about 5 years ago, I had the privilege of jumping on an airplane with him and a whole bunch of other veterans ranging from World War II, all the way up. And we toured D.C. and saw the monuments. And it was a sobering moment for me. And when it comes to Veterans Day, when it comes to those things, when I come to see people saying thank you to the troops, I don't feel like that's enough. I can't say thank you and have that mean something the way that I feel about it. So I'm not going to say thank you for your service, even though I have the deepest respect for that, because I don't think it's enough. But what I am going to ask you about is that leadership quality. And, we're talking football this morning. As you've served our country, was there anything that you took away from your time in Sigourney from SK football while you were going through basic, while you were deployed, or any of those operations that you were involved in, that you thought back and thought about SK football or thought about Sigourney, Iowa?
As far as thinking about it, I don't know. It was more, I don't know, I think I just kind of had a natural ability afterwards, I guess, like after being in football and really I think just this town in general, but just being part of all this, it was a lot easier for me to lead people. And I found myself in a lot of leadership positions from the get-go, being in the military during basic, and then getting to my first unit out there at the 101st, and then, further into that, all the other training I did, a lot of times I always ended up in the front and doing more of the leadership role. So I think that has a lot to say with just, being part of the team I was part of, being part of the program I was part of, but also, with this town. And, I think that has a lot to do with my dad as well, just kind of how he is. It's just naturally when you start talking, if you're a certain way, people listen. So I think I learned some of that from him as well. But that kind of same way with Coach here, it's, when he's talking, people listen. So if you can master that or do that, then it's a lot easier to have that leadership quality. So
it's kind of a passion of mine, I guess. I don't know if passion was the right word, but anyway, I'm kind of like Chloe Glosser, our cross-country runner, in that when I look at things, I try and find things that are going to make me better. And one of the things I like to do is read about the military, and I listen to Jocko Willink on a podcast, a special ops guy, and he talks about leadership all the time. And so I appreciate that, and I could sit here and probably talk to you for hours about your experiences, and you would be annoyed with me, and we would have to move on. But, I don't want to spend too much time doing that in this setting, because, again, it is about Sigourney Keota, and we got once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is the way I feel about it with these Hall of Fame guys. So we're going to move on to Chris Kaufman next and keep this ball rolling. And Chris, same question, and I'm going to ask you a few more to follow it up, but share with us your thoughts on Coach Howard and SK program.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm kind of the loser of the group. State championship. So best we got was the 91, the semifinals. So, but about Coach, I think back of, lately in all the news, in the last few years, they've talked about coaches and their responsibilities and how they make a mark in the world. They talk about Dabo Swinney and his connection. I'm thinking those are great, but Coach kind of did that a long time ago. Now it's kind of coming back, but you have Coach Howard, Tom Stone at Pekin, Bob Sanger at West Brett Hancock there. I think of those people that were kind of the building blocks for football. And, I think that, we talked about Derek and John both talked about, the relationship with Coach is amazing. Steve can remember those days where we're sitting out listening to his stories, and I talk about those to my kids, and they're like all the time, like, you're telling me the same story, and I'm like, yep, I'm getting old, so I keep telling the same stories. But I think back to those memories, being able to sitting out there. Steve probably remembers we had shirts that said Bob's Boys on them because, as Derek said, we always did the right thing. And that's awesome. But it's hard to believe that we were criticized for doing the right thing, because that was not the common thing at that time. And as we kept doing the right thing, and it just kind of grew that tradition. So, as you said, I am the old person here, and so I've been around and was able to watch the growth of the program. I sat and watched on TV and screamed at my TV when John made the touchdown. And know Derek from when he was little on the bus, riding the bus over with his dad, and when he was driving over to watch him grow up. So it's a great privilege for me to be able to see these guys grow up and still have a relationship with Coach. I text him, talk. It's just like these guys said. Will asked my sister to come, and I'm like, no, I'm not coming to this. And then Coach says, hey, you're going to be there. And I'm like, oh, I'll be there. So get up and drive down here because of it. So the things we do because of him as a person, but, as I mentioned, like the things that he's taught us, they all said the same thing. My father was a huge influence. Coach has been like another father for me. So it's just it's a special thing that not many people have when they talk about great coaches. He was blessed with that ability, and I went up. A story I tell. I went up to visit. He didn't know I was coming. I was in the area. Stopped up through one day. He had weight room. He's like, I got the weight room. We don't have a lot of time to talk. I said, all right. So we went down there. We sat there in the right in front of the weight room. All of his players came in, grabbed their folder, went in, worked out. He talked. He watched. I watched them all come back, sweat on their shirts, put their folder, said, thanks, Coach. See you later, and walked away. And I thought, that's it. I mean, that's the difference between a Coach Howard team and others, because he didn't need to sit there and blow smoke up their butts and get them going. And they all knew what they were doing. They had a goal, and they worked at it. And that's what these guys were all about. That's what the class is all about. And that's probably why it's the hardest for, I think, the three of us to acknowledge our success, because we know it's not our success. It's so many more people. We know that we can't do this without other people. I remember I had a pretty successful freshman year, and I remember Cedar Rapids Gazette was coming down. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. Back when it was just a newspaper and we didn't have all the media, but and I'm getting ready to go talk to him, and he grabs me and he says, I'm going to tell you one thing, Chris. He goes, you didn't get 1 yard without those 5 people in front of you, and don't ever forget that. I said, all right. So I'm over there, and I remember every single question I answered with all the linemen. I couldn't do anything without the linemen. And I'm sure the guy looked at me like, how stupid could I possibly be? But I was like making sure that. And from that day, I always realized that it was more than myself. And I was blessed in the fact that not only have him, went to college, had Coach Skipper, who was same kind of mold about things, about it's about family, it's about tradition, and so it's something that we are all thankful for, and I hope that people are appreciative of the things he's done and the things that Sigourney Keota has been able to maintain and keep, because it's special, and people want it, but people don't know how to necessarily do it and get it, and a lot of times because it's this person here that's been able to direct that.
You might want to mention the last time you come up unannounced to visit me and how I treated you when I didn't know who you were.
Well, it was about 25 degrees, and yes, it was.
You were bundled up pretty good, and it was also right before a playoff game, but at least we won that one. So,
well, my wife was even surprised I tried to talk to you at halftime. She couldn't figure out what I was doing.
So one thing I want to do with you guys is get back to that team atmosphere. You guys are all selfless people, and that's evident, by the discussions we've had thus far. So we'll start with Chris and work our way back down this way. Chris, can you talk about your team and your teammates? You gave props to your lineman. I was a lineman, so thank you for that. It's about time we're getting our due process. But go ahead and talk about the team and maybe, individual players. My suspicion is there are a lot of people watching this. There's going to be a lot of people that watch this. And one thing that I do on Steve's show is I try and talk about the kids, and especially the kids that aren't the quarterback, the spin back, that aren't the running back, that are getting their name in. You know, I like to talk about my kid. You know, my kid wasn't the best athlete, but that kid worked his ass off, and that's the thing that I want to talk about. So can you talk about some of those guys on that team that really busted it out?
Yeah, you know, the first thing that always comes to mind when I think about team and think about football isn't games. I mean, I mean, it takes me a little while to think about games, maybe just because I'm old and I can't remember them. But I think about the experiences. I think about the times we had. I think about, you know, I remember, sounds weird probably for some younger people, but I remember being in the afterwards and Coach kicking us out of the showers because people in there, everybody's in there messing around, talking. Like, it was just, those are the first things that come to my mind. I think of, we had when we did our visualization and Dave Bauer fell asleep and you can hear him snoring in there and everybody's dying laughing. I mean, those are the first things that come to my mind, or when I think of my teammates. It's experience. It's not about the plays. I mean, there's lots of them. I can go on forever about so many things, but we talk about, it's amazing to think about the friendships and that, you know, I have that are because of that. People I wouldn't have been friends with, and it was always so fun playing against, you know, Steve Menke and I both captains. You know, we're best friends of football. Then all of a sudden you go play against each other in basketball, and you know, you're John with each other, and it was just a fun atmosphere to be able to have those friendships, and it continues. I mean, it's one of those things you see those guys today, and the first thing you think back about being with those guys, and it's just, I mean, it's. Like I said, I didn't talk about all those guys, but it's friendships those are the things that why I'd like to, you know, like to be 18 again, to be able to have those, because you don't have them when you're old. You don't have, you know, life changes and things, and you just don't have that team like John mentioned.
Well, Chris, you don't have to remember the plays because Coach Howard has every one of them Rolodexed in his mind, what the weather was like, the time of the day, what he had for breakfast, and what he had for supper when he got home.
I never ate on game days.
I do remember that story. John, can you talk about the teams that you were a part of and maybe some of the folks that you played with?
Yeah, I think I was in a kind of a unique situation as far as it was for me. At a younger age, I was helping out roofing for Jim Flynn, so I was around a lot of guys that were a lot older than me. You know, I had Pat Flynn, Alex Hammis out there, Will, my now brother-in-law, you know, Clint Howard, all those guys around. I'm sure I missed a few names there, but, you know, I was always influenced by those guys, and they were a lot older than me, and I was always looking up to them. You know, Dan Hammis, that's another one. Forgot about him. Sorry, Dan. But, you know, those guys I think really influenced me a lot as far as how to create a team. So a lot of that 2001 team there really influenced me on that. You know, and then as far as in high school and being part of a team when we were freshmen, like that was a lot of fun. That was, you know, the first time working together from Keota and Sigourney, and we played against each other in junior high, you know, and that was a pretty good team. You know, that was a lot of fun. And moving on to the next years, I think a lot about some of the guys that were there on those teams. As far as the seniors go, that 2003 team, that was a really awesome season, and I don't think people really – it's probably not a super memorable one for a lot of people, but it was a team that wasn't supposed to win. It wasn't supposed to be any good, but somehow we just won. And, you know, we beat a Tipton team that was really, really good in the freezing cold, and it was an awesome game. And, you know, just being part of that, I guess that team swallowing its pride and saying, yeah, there's going to be a bunch of sophomores on this team, but we're going to be good. And that was pretty cool to be part of that. And then junior and senior year, you know, there's some names to be mentioned in there as far as guys go. You know, I remember some of the unnamed people that you don't think about, like Sean Noel and Lyle for that 04 team. Those guys, they didn't get to play a whole lot, but when they were out there, they were going full bore on special teams, and those guys were, you know, blocking punts and blocking. I mean, I think we had so many block punts that year, and that's something that always stuck out to me on that. But senior season, you know, I think everybody there that was, yeah, like if you just go with the championship game, like there's, you know, I had whatever I had for yards, you know, and the line did a great job for that, but there's individuals in there that people don't really pay attention to as far as that goes. I think the first play out the get-go there with Bauslog tackling that receiver, they would have got a touchdown if he wouldn't have done that. And, yeah, it was pass interference, but he did the right thing, Schwanke getting that interception in the end, making that block for me, and Chase Griner just having an absolute, game that was just amazing. He was up against a guy that was way fast, just super fast, but Chase locked him down, and that was the reason why we won. I think it was just the fact that we had such a good cohesion as a team and influenced each other to do the right thing and push each other to the next level. So I think just all that combined, I think that's like kind of how it was for me, is how it was influenced. So I don't know if there's any more I could say on that. So it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. And, yeah, I miss it, but next chapter's now. So.
Yeah, don't look in the rear view, right, John?
Yep.
So last night you had a lot of classmates with you at the Unidome for your induction. Can you talk about those folks that were there with you and what that meant to you to have so many people there supporting you?
Yeah, I don't know. At first I wasn't too thrilled about people taking, I didn't want them to mess up their day or take their, waste their time. So, but it was actually pretty cool. And, I really appreciate all the guys that came out. That was awesome to see everyone again, the people I got to see. And, it was, I hadn't seen a lot of them in years. I've been gone for so long. So it was pretty cool to see them all and see what some of them are up to and what they're doing. And, everybody's got kids and living their own life and doing stuff, different stuff. And a lot of successful people out there, that's for sure. But, yeah, seeing everybody again, it kind of brings it back a little bit where you're thinking about having fun and all the, camp outs and all the fun stuff you used to do when you were in high school and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was pretty cool to see everyone, and I really did appreciate that. That was pretty good. So.
Well, John, I wasn't there, but I saw the pictures of it this morning, and I met you for the first time this morning, and I could tell from the picture you looked uncomfortable. And so I just want to say that those guys were there for you and what your accomplishment meant to them. So congratulations again. I can't say it enough. Well-deserved, well-earned, and we're going to keep trucking on here to Derek Griner. And, Derek, can you talk about your teammates and your seasons as a Cobra?
Yeah, we were fortunate. We just had a lot of really good players. Obviously, the big guys up front. But just, 1 to 11, everybody was really good. But I'm probably going to do something. I'm going to name two names of two guys that played a lot, because a lot of times at halftime it was like 48-0, but didn't get to start. But to me, were as much of a part of our success as anyone. And it's Trevor Rash and Todd Fisher. Those kids, I don't know how many rolls of athletic tape they had to go through, but they endured a serious beating during the week. And I know they know it because I made a point to tell them. Our success had a lot to do with how they ran scout team. Maybe it was a little rougher than Coach Howard would have liked it, but the old saying, you practice how you play, we practice how we played. And, there was a lot of bloodshed on the practice field. And them two got up with an absolute pat on the back joy that they got the crap beat out of them every day. And I hope they understand how important their role was, and I think they do. Because, we made sure as a team we let them know that. And, today a lot of kids think if they ain't playing, well, why go out? Well, I will guarantee you when we got to the John Deere store, those guys had as much joy as what any one of us starters did. And that trophy was as much theirs as what it was any of us starters. And like I say, that was what was nice about SK football. It wasn't about any one person. It was about the fact that everybody felt a part of it. And even Trevor even said, thank me for beating the crap out of him in practice every week. I mean, we enjoyed it. We loved it. I mean, it was fun. And that sounds crazy, but, you know, in today's world of what have you done for me, and, you know, everybody wants their kid to play or whatever, you don't have to play to be a part of something. That's what's great about sports. You know, you got so many years, you know, 4 years to do it. So do it and enjoy it and be a part of something. And when you're a part of success, that really makes it fun. So 2 other names I got to name drop that were really good players that kind of, you know, are the epitome of why this program was what it was. We all played when we were younger, and maybe the only time I was ever upset at Coach Howard, and maybe why I never really practiced soft after this. Sophomore, getting ready for the Solon game. Brad Hodap is their running back, really good. Played at Wartburg, great player. And it was kind of my first game to step up to varsity. And our starting spin back and 3-year starter and 2-time first-team All-Stater is our running back for scout team, Jake Flanders. And we run a play. I know it's coming. I could have smoked him. And I kind of just run up and grab him, and he does a spin move and runs out of it. And I kind of let him go. And, man, Coach Howard starts stomping the dirt and talking underneath his breath. Man, I was pissed. I thought I could have leveled him, you know. And so 3 plays later, old Clint draws her up on the card. And, man, I got myself a running start, and I laid him out good. And Jake gets up, and here's a guy that has every right to be egotistical and say, who the hell are you to hit me? And he gets up, and he says, awesome job, Griner. And I think that was like, wow, this is where it's at. This is big. This is bigger than any one person. And also that year, Trent Steinhardt, same year, same age, 2-year starting middle linebacker. I'm a skinny 155-pound sophomore. And Coach moves him outside and moves me to inside linebacker. Anyone would think, what in the hell are you doing? And the most influential teacher I had that entire year was Trent helping me out. Like there's no egos in this program. And so to any young kids listening, listen to your coaches, block out all the people. You know, I hate to say block out your parents. Your parents are your most influential people, but trust your coaches, trust your teammates, and don't do things to get your name in the paper. Don't do things to be a starter. Do it to be a part of something, because I don't know that you'll ever be fulfilled trying to do something for yourself. But if you know you are part of doing something together, man, you will be fulfilled. I promise.
Well, I dubbed this the Barn Wired a Little Different segment because, Derek, you're wired a little different. I'll just tell you that straight to your face. And I know the rest of these guys are too, but I can assure you, Derek, that those guys weren't as excited about getting hit as you gave it to them. But we'll leave that for another day, and we can debate that some other time. So I appreciate that sentiment. But moving ahead to talk about, you know, what happens post-football, you know, the stuff that I'm talking about being wired a certain way, that's not a switch that you turn off. And that's just who you are. You know, you're humble guys, but you guys are next level. What do you guys do to harness that? How do you keep yourselves challenged? Is it a CrossFit thing? Is it just daily activity? What are you guys doing to fulfill that burn, that desire, and keep yourself from going crazy, frankly? Fire away, Derek.
Well, I'm a dad and I'm a husband, so it's easy, I guess. You treat it the same way. I treat it the same way I played football. It's not about you. It's about them. So I was the youngest of 9. I watched my mom and dad sacrifice everything to try to put food on the table for us. It was never about them going out with their friends. It was easy for me because I lived it growing up. So, I just follow their example, and life today is the same way. You live your life kind of like you play football. It's not about you. It's always about the people that are around you, and everything is a lot better when you accomplish it together. Then you can't be selfish. There's a reason why divorce rates and stuff are the way. It can't just be what you want. It's a happy medium, and I think we could all agree that when you give a Christmas present instead of receive it. You feel better when the person opening it is getting your present than when you open someone else's. And so, it's anyone that's a parent or, a husband or a wife, it's pretty easy that way, I guess. So.
Same question, John. How are you staying engaged, and how are you challenging yourself? This one should be easy, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, the best way to put this, I think I was always chasing a ghost after high school. So for me, it was trying to find the same team-like desire I had before. So I spent some time in between college and working and doing everything else. But, getting into the military, I think, was part of it. And then once I got there, deployed once, moving on from that, I wanted to do more. So I was able to do a lot more than most people get to do. Push myself to the next level to make it to that. So, being a Green Beret was pretty high up there on that. I think as far as pushing myself, that's really what it was just continuing to use, kind of like Derek said there, it's you got that team effort, you got that drive to be, selfless. Like that's kind of what I wanted. So I think having that team atmosphere and everything else, that's really what pushed me to want to keep excelling as far as that goes, and then, things happen the way they happen. And so now, I'm out of the military, but I think a lot of that were my recovery and everything from getting injured from that. I think that had some to do with it too. I think I was a little different than most people, that's for sure. So, getting healed up from that injury I sustained, I think that really helped push me a lot. So, I don't know. I don't really know now. It's more or less just got the kids and wife, and we're just trying to do everything we can for them and make a good life for them. And it's kind of cool to, I'm really proud of my wife, I guess, as far as that goes too. Her pushing herself to get her degree in nursing, and she went and got that while she was pregnant with our last kid. Graduated, did really good, and she's a nurse now, and that was something that it's cool to see that happen. I think watching from the outside, and I think that really helped me a lot to be able to feel better, I guess, now that I'm on the civilian side of things. So it's kind of nice with that. So yeah, I don't know what else to say on that, but as far as pushing myself, I think I need to do a little bit more running. I think I've gained some weight, but I should probably do a little bit more of that. Maybe that CrossFit you were talking about. I got into that for a little bit while I was in the military, but I should probably get back into it.
Derek, you seem to stay in pretty good shape. Is that a natural thing? Is that a gift from Marley, or what is this?
Take the sweatshirt off. I think I must just carry it good or something.
There you go.
Every day choring 15,000 pigs, I suppose that helps a little bit.
Right. Chris, how about yourself? AD at Grinnell, is that enough to keep you motivated and keep you going, or is there something else you're doing there?
I'm a father of 6 boys, so everywhere we're from. My oldest is 25. I have one in playing college baseball, and I have one in high school, 2 in high school, and then I have twins that are 7. So active with that. And then as the AD, it's an active life. There's no workout in my life right now. It's head around, eat supper at 10 o'clock at night when I get home from activities. But going back to the original question, I probably am who I am and doing what I am because of Coach. I sent something out to my coach the other day, some motivational video to watch, and it talked about, the question was, why do you coach? And I thought about, like, why did I coach and why did I go into what I was doing? Mom and family all into education, but Coach Howard into what I wanted to be able to model in and show other people, that just be a good role model for people. And that's, what I try to do with my job is just trying to get our coaches to realize that that their job isn't necessarily to win state championships. Their job is to create great husbands and wives and men and women. And we did a pretty good job at it. But, and as you mentioned before, and Coach mentioned, Grinnell has had some great athletes. Eli Dunn was a great football player for us. I went to UNI and played. But as of right now, we don't have anybody in the Hall of Fame. So it is a special thing that Sigourney Keota has here. And again, going back to, I think it's all because of Coach and what he's done for all of us. So.
Yeah, I was looking through the list of Hall of Famers. I grew up in Washington, and I can attest to that scout team thing that Derek was talking about, because I was that guy as a freshman and a sophomore and got my tail whipped by some guys that were 6'5" and 270, 280, and I was not that big then. But it is a special thing to have a program like Sigourney Keota to have this many Hall of Famers. That is a testament to culture. And that was brought by Bob Howard. I don't think that there's any argument about that. And I've coached, I know that these guys have been involved in leadership roles too, coaching or otherwise. And one of the goals that we all have as leaders, as coaches, is to raise quality people and to have an impact on lives. And Coach Howard, now that I'm not going to call you retired, because I don't think you've actually said that you've retired, but you've stepped away for at least a minute. And handed the whistle over for a moment. Can you reflect on these guys and maybe others in your career? And do you feel satisfied that you have done what you set out to do when you started coaching? Do you feel fulfilled?
It's so much different now than when I started coaching, and I was worried about how many you win. And this is coach speak times 100. But when you were worried about how many games you were going to win. And I wanted to be the youngest guy to win 100 games, and I wanted to be the youngest guy to win 150, and I wanted to be the youngest guy in the Coaches Hall of Fame, and I was. And so what? That didn't matter near as much to me as this stuff and the guys sitting out here and the influence that you hoped that you had. And it was really hard leaving Sigourney Keota. I knew what we had here. It was really hard not leaving Sigourney Keota for me at that time. The stress and it was all self-imposed. This is no lie. I haven't had a football parent call me or criticize me to my face in 47 years. Part of it was because we had parent meetings, and part of it, I suppose, was because I'm supposed to be so mean, according to everybody. But it was just, if you didn't go to school, didn't come to my house or go to church, I didn't go anywhere, because here I was coaching 4 sports year round, which a lot of people didn't like that either, because they didn't get a real in with the coach. There wasn't a whole lot of way to influence somebody. That probably wouldn't fly nearly as well now with youth sports starting when they're 2 years old and all the stuff they want them to do now, that I don't agree with most of it, and I got 4 kids involved in it. But it was just, the more we got into it, the more I figured out the corny thing about relationships. That's it. And you can't have one special group that this is the name kids. And that was the first thing I was asked when I got to Webster City in the baseball outfield before we even had ever played a football game. Are you going to play the names like all the other coaches here? And, of course, I, being the smart aleck that I usually was, I said, well, sure, I'm going to play names. Well, at least you admit it. I says, I'm sure they're all going to have a name. And I says, why don't you come back a year from now and ask? I says, or I can give you a name of several hundred people in Sigourney and Sigourney Keota. You can call down there and ask if we played the names. But it was a different time. And one of the things here was, I think for the last 4 years I was here, I wrote every article for every sport that went in our paper. And we never wrote a football article that every kid that started, usually offensive and defense, they all got their name in the paper. And the linemen almost always got their names in there before John, who had rushed for 300, or Derek, who'd rushed for whatever he rushed for that night, or Chris. The linemen got the attention first. And that was, I think, how we kind of started that culture, but also the kids who weren't the names and didn't. The key player in the 95 championship game, when we had 31 yards going into the last drive, which is a super famous time in Sigourney Kyoto. We had the 17-play drive. On the other side, one end was Kyle Vanden Bosch, who was an All-American at Nebraska and played 10 years in the pros. The other end was LeVar Woods, who obviously is at Iowa now, and they were great. But we had a 17-play drive basically because Tim Flynn stepped in the huddle and said, if we're going to do this, we're kind of running out of time. We better do it now. And I cleaned that up, I think, quite a bit. But that drive the winning play was to Dustin Dobbins, who has since passed, another one of our great kids who had great military service, who really, he turned his life around in the military and with the discipline that we had in our program. Jeremy Guile, who, had a great career in the Marines following it. And you can mention all kinds of other kids like that, Will and the service that we had. But that drive finished with a play that I didn't call. And we call, and it was, I had a great play call, and Tim Flynn would have scored. He probably could have almost walked in, and I'm starting to put my hands up. He was on the 5. He was rolling out to the left. Mark O'Rourke and Ryan Schaff dumped LeVar Woods. We never cut block. We never allowed people to. They put him on the ground. Tim's rolling out. I had split Dustin Dobbins out to take the corner with him, which he went with him. I almost could have waddled in from there. I'm starting to put my arms up. Tim, it was like slow motion. I remember every bit of. He rises up and he throws it. And, of course, this story would really stink, and I wouldn't be telling it had Dustin not caught it in the end zone for the touchdown. But following that play, that put us up 14-10. Following that play, they ran a kickoff towards our sideline. And the kids, and West Lyon was loaded. They had kids all over the field. Great player. They get right in front of me on about the 25 or 30, and he turns around and throws the ball back across the field to LeVar Woods with 2 kids in front of him. And all of a sudden, this great story ain't looking so good. And Jeff Searin, who didn't start, he was on all the special teams. And he not only stayed put where he was supposed to be, he was over there, he turned the play in, and he got clipped. And it was clipping. There wasn't any doubt. And he held him up long enough. We got over and tackled Woods on like their 30-yard line or 35-yard line, but the penalty put him back, and then Greg Hammis intercepted the next pass on a desperation deep pass. But that's the kind of stuff, and I don't even know where I started with that, which is pretty typical. But no, it's just when I went to Webster City, there were no big expectations. And they hadn't had basically a winning – I think they had one winning season in the 10 or 11 years before that. And we basically had the best 16 years in a row that Webster City ever had, even though the old-timers up there won't admit that. But we played 3A and 4A, and they were playing in a 1A conference, 1A, 2A conference. So it just changed, and the relationships changed. And when guys – come to our games, and a lot of guys come to our games that I didn't know were coming, and some of them were traveling. Some of the Sellers family, they traveled all over to watch us play, and there's other people did too. That was just neat. And they weren't there to watch Webster City. They were there to see me, not coach football, but just because it meant something, and that's what gets to be important. The main thing that's got me through 47 years is I always had bulldogs, even though Chris about killed one of them when I was in Minnesota one time trying to walk him 17 miles in the heat. But it's been awesome. And now that I'm retired, supposedly it is different, and I am not retired if I can find the right place, the right time. And I'm a little bit tied with, I guess it's a good anchor, but I've got the 4 grandkids in Webster City she's a Webster City gal. She's the AD there now, and she ain't going to go anywhere. And all these guys have done a really good job of repopulating the planet. My son has too. He has 4 kids too, all about the same ages as John's. And that's the neat part. I mean, it sounds corny and all that stuff, but that seeing that and hoping that influence will be there. And I got out at the right time, kind of like Nick Saban and those guys got out because of NIL and transfer portal. Youth sports is really changing the dynamic of high school sports. And what's happening in the future is going to be really interesting with big size schools that are not playing girls basketball because they don't have enough kids going out, and we don't have enough time to go into this. Could be a whole, I'll do another podcast if you want me to come down about youth sports, but most people don't want to hear it because there's so many things that go into it. But that's it. Five other things just went through here, and I'm not gonna.
Coach, I accept your offer on behalf of Steve Shetler Media. We will talk about that. Thank you. Absolutely, yeah. There's lots of things that we could spin off of this one.
Just make sure you've got really solid sponsors, because it will not be a politically correct. Yeah, because you might lose some sponsors.
Coach, you said it. It's not about the names. It's about the viewers, right? But I think John and I touched on this, a closed chapter, chasing a ghost, looking out the windshield and not in the rearview mirror. Coach, is there ever a time in your down hours when you look back and say, you know what if I would have stuck it out with SK? And I know there's a lot of factors that played into your choice to go to Webster City, but I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Well, of course. Probably I wouldn't be here now because I was having 190 to 200 over 110 to 115 blood pressures. That's why there was stupid, unrational, unrealistic, unrational, that isn't even the right word, but stress, and it was all from in here. And no matter how much I coached, part of the reason I coached 4 sports was so I had something to do year round. I married too young to a great gal from Scranton where I was at first. Well, she hadn't anticipated, and I told them beforehand, like I always do, I always try to be honest. I told her, I said, I'm not going to stay in Scranton forever. Well, Scranton's almost 4 hours from Sigourney. And, of course, I made the really bright move of hanging up the phone from talking with the Sigourney. Was that Sigourney? I said, yeah. Did you just take that job? Yeah. I never dawned on me you were supposed to ask. but it was too early, and they're definitely our coaches' wives. I mean, you got to, and they've got to be part of the program and all that. They got to be a part of the best example I've ever seen was Sherry Stone down at Pekin, who was part of the Pekin program, and that's just one example. But she was here a couple of years, and then she left, and then I got completely invested, which I was going to be anyway, in the athletic program at Sigourney. And then when we put Sigourney and Keota together, which wasn't easy. I mean, there wasn't, and it was really hard on that family right over there, the Greiner family, because Mark was a freshman that come over then, and they took a lot of crap, him and Brett Bell. And like I said, they weren't taking crap when they were seniors. Nobody was giving them, and they were the bottom floor of building Sigourney Keota, along with Chris and his classes. And that was a big deal. But I was able to completely, and I just stayed in sports year round. And we went to one week of summer. Matter of fact, Chris went with me one year after he was that after the knee injury? So
That was my graduation present.
Okay. Yeah, his graduation present was to go get stuck in a cabin up in Black Duck, Minnesota with me, and it rained. And I was probably pouting most of the time because the fishing was bad. But yeah.
And I locked the keys in the cabin.
Yeah, he did lock the keys in the cabin, too.
And our motor broke. We had to oar in.
Yeah, but you were with me, so you could do the oaring. So or the rowing. That's why I took it. But
I learned a lot of vocabulary words.
Yeah, that you didn't know from your dad already. So, but anyway, that it was just a different time for me. And I've been to Colorado Springs once for a coaching award. That's as far west as I've been. John's been more places in a week than I've been my whole life. I mean, I just never traveled because I was coaching year round. And I always thought when other coaches are going here and going there and taking vacation, we're at home at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, or like when I don't know if Chris lifted out in the yard. We took the weights out of the school and lifted in the yard in the summer because we didn't have a weight room per se like we did once. But so it was just, I thought we're out working everybody. The one regret I have as a coach, and I've had some other coaches, there's a mentorship program now with the IFCA, the Coaches Association. You know, what would you advise? It's really tough advising this because of how are they going to take it. You got to make sure you enjoy the winning and the successes and the time you spend with the kids. After the 95 championship, we had the reception. I went home. The Bulldog was dead in the basement. I still think from heat exhaustion from a couple years before. But Amos had passed away. Everything, and I turned around and went back to the school, and I was in my office. How are we going to do this again? Same thing in 2001. I didn't celebrate it hardly at all because now, how are we going to do this again? In 2005, after John's team went through, this is kind of obvious. This is going to be a little while. We still went 8-1 the next year. A lot because of Levi Lyle and Scott Webb and West Club, and a tough schedule. But I didn't take time to enjoy stuff like we should have. And there's a fine line between enjoying stuff and having a life completely away from the school and being away from everybody. So I don't know what that just said, but that was the regret that I have, is that we should have enjoyed this a little bit more. And now those 3 great big gold footballs that sit on my bookshelf that I look at on the one side, and some of the coaches' plaques and awards that are on the other side, who cares? And it could be any second for anybody, but when I'm gone, which is getting closer than not, I suppose, what happens to those? And they don't matter. It's the memories that go with those that matter. And that's what I've always said, and then I'm going to shut up. What I hope that kids get out of playing sports is that they're getting great memories of stuff that wasn't even on the field. And we had great stories here. I mean, there was something happened, several things. Every season, the 3 championships were a big deal. There was a different story for all of them. Chris's senior year, you know, with those 7 seniors that worked their tails off. But that's what, yeah, the winning is awesome, and it's easy to say all this stuff when you've won. But it's that other stuff that you realize matters more and more the older you get. And you seem to get older a lot faster the older you get. That it really goes. So anyway, and I can't tell my appreciation enough for these guys, for what they did to build Sigourney Keota program, the guys out here that played for us, and everybody else that might be listening. They say, well, I was just yeah, you were all just as big a deal as these 3, and that's what they've said. That's good. That's enough.
Well,
I keep saying that, and then I talk another 10 minutes.
And that's a blessing that we have you here, Coach. And without question, you've left a legacy. And that's going to be probably my final question for you guys is, and we'll start with Chris and work our way back down my way. As far as the legacy goes, you guys have hopefully stayed in touch with the program. I don't want to make that assumption. So have you guys been watching SK football? If so, are you pleased with the direction that it's headed? If you have any anything negative to say about the program or suggestions on how we could maybe improve, I think you guys have earned that right, and I think that our listeners want to hear it. So, Chris, we'll start with you, and we'll roll down this way.
We talked about start off by saying how old, but I think back when newspapers were where you got your scores, and all the way through college and even out, that was always the first thing you look at. You open up the sports section in Des Moines and to see how Sigourney did. Now you get on your phone and look, but I still look. I look each time to see how Sigourney does each week, even when I don't have a relative playing. I look to see how Coach did each week. Then maybe look through other things. But so you're always looking to see. I mean, it's we all probably agree. It's still a part of us, some way or another. You can think back when you in the fall and you smell the leaves burning. It brings you back to being on there on a Friday night, and it just always has some kind of memory of some sort. So it's always is a part. I think that as you watch and the tradition that Sigourney has brought, Sigourney Keota. Yep, Sigourney Keota has brought. It's just to me, it's always just one. But yeah, it's something that is always in your mind, and you're proud to be a part of, and you see that there's success, and you're happy for it. So I've been lucky enough. I've had some nephews play, so I've been able to follow a little bit. But like I said, older, so I got to watch all these guys and watch them on film, go to the games, and be able to see. So it's just it's a thing that you just continue to just keep an eye on, keep watching, and it's great to see their success and how they've done.
Here I go again. But Chris is old enough. He was not a Cobra. That was a huge period from 1988 up to 1998 when we were still Savages with no mascot.
And almost had the Michigan Wolverine on our helmet.
Yeah, we almost did. That got nixed pretty quick. I'm glad it did too, but that was kind of a dumb idea on my part. But we were Cobras in 1998, the year after Clint graduated. He hated the Cobras. Well, sure he did. The Matt, because he wasn't one, which I pointed out. Then he kind of shut up about it. I said, "You're jealous." Well, yeah. Well, that sounds stupid. I said, "Yeah, it sounds stupid." He wasn't even a Cobra yet, and it's so he's been in on the ground floor ever since.
John, have you had a chance to keep up with the program and thoughts?
Yeah, I think I've done the best I can, I guess, as far as that goes. I'm out in Idaho, so it's a bit of a time difference, but yeah, keeping up with the scores, kind of like he said there. It's used to be newspapers, but it's a lot easier now to kind of keep track of it. So following some of that stuff on Facebook, I know this last season I was flipping back and forth between I'm a little invested in Pekin Panthers a little bit right now because I got a buddy that's coaching that team, but I between Pekin and Sigourney, I'll be flipping back and forth between the two games, watch them on my phone usually is how it is, or something like that. So as far as the direction goes for SK, for Sigourney Keota, I think Coach Jensen's done a great job as far as that goes. It's looking like the same thing. I remember I watched that podcast or whatever you guys did there a while back, and he said something on there that was the identity of what SK was, and he didn't want to really change that. And I don't know if that's a right or wrong thing, but I think it definitely helped continue to build that tradition of a winning program, a strong program, a program that guys wanted to win and wanted to care about each other. So I think that's pretty cool to see. And then again, watching that over at Pekin, kind of seeing that same thing there. So I think that's pushed over that way too. So this program has kind of spread a little bit as far as that goes. So that's pretty cool to see. So, but yeah, that's about the best answer I can give for that. Yeah, I keep up with it, keep watching scores and stuff. I don't think there's anything that I could change. I'm not a coach, so I can't
complain. So, but you've got one of the best seats because the two best places to be a coach is in the bleachers or on your couch.
Derek, thoughts on the program and direction for SK football?
Yeah, you said you dubbed this the Wire different. That brings me back. So Coach Howard, about once every couple months, would send us a packet, and it would just have, hey, hope you guys are doing things right, hope you're lifting, hope you're doing that. Then he'd always leave it with a motivational quote, and one that almost daily I think about that he had in there is uncommon people win championships. And I literally every day think about that. And that's one that I just would really kind of hope that kids would hone in on, because it's common to be on your phone. It's common to be on social media. It's uncommon to take that time and go do something to better yourself. So my second favorite quote would be from the great Spencer Lee, "Excuses are for wusses." I love that quote. Today's world, it's all anybody wants to do, it seems like, is well this and well that. Well, forget about that. What did you do to change that? So I would just challenge the kids. As far as advice for the program, I mean, I've never coached nothing. Who would I to be to give any advice? But I would give advice. I can give advice to kids, and be more like your boy. Be more like McGuire. And be a football player when it comes to football. Just enjoy it. Be a student athlete. Give it everything you got. Control what you can control, and make sure you're doing everything in your power to do the best you can. The rest will take care of itself. But I will say this. The best memories I had were maybe not necessarily on the field. It was in the time spent up to that. We love to lift. We love to be together. And that was the fun part. So I would embrace that more and buy in more, and that would be my advice.
All right. Well, congratulations, John, for the induction in the Hall of Fame again. And here we go back to Steve. He was making hand signals. He's doing like mime gestures over here. He wants to talk too.
I think we're going to wrap it up. Guys, we really appreciate you coming in this morning. I know that this wasn't your thing for the most part, so appreciate you being on camera and talking with us this morning here on Steve Shetler Media. John, I know you didn't have to come all the way from Idaho to be on our show this morning, so really congratulations on your Hall of Fame induction, and that goes to all of you. You're doing us proud here in the Sigourney and Keota areas. By the way, I wanted to tell you, Coach Howard and Chris, that I actually wrote a paper in college after your season where you didn't get into the playoffs, complaining about the system. So obviously that had a lot of influence on the state association. That one paper I wrote. And I also, before you went to the Cobras, was there ever a time, Coach, where there were thoughts of maybe going with the skull and crossbones as a logo? Because I know we had the one T-shirt and the basketball practice jersey. Was a skull and crossbones ever a possibility?
Honestly, there was. And this is a whole nother show. After the state come in and made us drop all the Indian paraphernalia, I waited, and I was student council as well as trying to control everything else. We ran a contest across this town to come up with a new mascot. I knew that we were never going to have a new mascot. There was never going to be voted on. The student council spent $2,500 on a graphic artist, same guy that drew the Cobra, which I should have trademarked before I left town, but I sold it for $1 to the school. But he drew a Tasmanian devil type figure that you could use, and we changed it 20%, and you could use it in any stance. You could have put it in a football uniform, a wrestling singlet, a band outfit, a cap and gown. You would have known that's the Sigourney Savage. And in the newspaper article then that we followed with the ballot to vote, that one got more votes than I forget what the other one, but what got the most votes essentially was write in, screw the state, be Indians.
Yeah.
Well, that was easy to say, except that was when they were going around closing small schools. Then I had for a year in mind, we're going to be the Cobras, because Sigourney Keota Cobras sings. I can say this now, but we put Savage Cobras ahead of it to appease the Sigourney. And the only time there was more political stress on that was when we come out in the purple jerseys that nobody knew about other than me and the superintendent knew, but he wasn't going to. But we changed in the hallway and come out for him. And the Sigourney side, and I hope it isn't that way now. At that time, it was the Sigourney side and the Keota side at the games. And Sigourney side didn't say much. The Keota folks went nuts. And I didn't care about either one of those. The kids thought it was awesome, and that's all I cared about. But, yeah, we had a 10-year period there with but Skull and Crossbones was probably never one of them because I wouldn't have done anything that I thought was going to get in the way of being the Snakes. Because there was only one Savages, and it's kind of a negative name, to be honest, but it's awesome because we were the only one. Most people do not like snakes. And Cobras are the most intimidating ones of the bunch when you put them up in a hooded thing. That's what I was after, and something we could market. And we did pretty good putting black, gold, and purple together too, with some pretty cool stuff. And if we would have had more storage area, we would have had a lot more uniforms, and we would have had at least one more set of helmets. But I didn't have anywhere to put them, so.
Nice. Well, Andy McGuire, stellar job as our host today. Can't thank you enough for the job you do on our sports section here on Steve Shetler Media. And you and Coach Howard are definitely going to have to talk and discuss a potential show here for Steve Shetler Media. But everybody appreciate it. Chloe Glosser, that seems, like an hour and a half ago. We appreciate Chloe from Pekin Cross Country being our first guest on the show today. And we'll do this again. I'm not sure who we'll have next. We'll probably start previewing and getting into basketball and wrestling season with coaches and athletes. So tune in next Saturday, 8 a.m. We'll do the sports section again. We're live at Barnwired in downtown Sigourney.